The Paul brothers are YouTube's most infamous sibling duo. Jake Paul is the younger brother, and he's definitely the worst out of the pair. He's not just a bad YouTuber, he's been in a string of run-ins with the law, culminating in an FBI raid. It's a lot, so basically I just want to look at how the heck we got here.
He's my brother, he's my family, he's my blood. Sometimes I do not understand why he does the things he does.
I'll take care of you.
He's known for being in the public eye, but today YouTube star Jake Paul is making headlines after an FBI raid at his home in Calabasas.
They say that you've created a living hell out here, that it's like a circus.
Yeah, it is.
All the fans.
I mean, but people like going to circuses, right?
Hi and welcome back to me talking about whatever I want. Today I want to talk about Jake Paul. This is just one video in a two-part series I made about the Paul brothers, and I actually uploaded both of them at the same time. So you don't have to watch them in any particular order. If you want to see the one about Logan Paul, you can watch that one after this one or vice versa. Also, this is the part where I was supposed to promote my merch, but here's the funny part about that. I designed like the entire merch line myself, and then I got the samples and I didn't like them. Merch incoming, but unfortunately it got pushed back. I guess instead of promoting the merch, I could just promote me. Hi, I was nominated for a Streamy Award for Best Commentary Channel. So if you want to vote for me for that, that's great. Other than that, nothing much has been going on. I've honestly just been sitting around editing these videos that you're about to watch, because what else is there to do during quarantine? But before you watch those videos, watch this ad read. Today's video is sponsored by Current, who's finally bringing banking up to date in the current year. Current is a mobile bank with a Visa debit card. Like, it's a real bank account. You can send money for free, you can deposit checks using your phone camera, you can withdraw from over 55,000 ATMs for free, you have free overdraft protection up to $100, you know, bank account stuff. But there's no hidden fees or minimum balance. They don't charge you for like existing, basically, unlike most banks. Plus, you can get points on purchases, which you can redeem for cash. Current works with Apple Pay, Google Pay, Cash App, Venmo. It's the future of banking, so you can do everything much faster. You can get paid up to 2 days faster, you can get refunds and gas station holds instantly. You can even sign up for Current faster than other banks. It takes about 2 minutes to sign up for your own Current, and they ship you a card for free. And to be honest, this card is almost as pretty as me. I was trying to use the chip as a mirror. You can set up an account even if you're under 18. Anyway, go to the link in my description and sign up for your own Current Black Premium card today. That's current.com/dangelowallace. Every day I'm trying to push the boundaries creatively, and sometimes it does push the boundary too far, and that's what I had to learn. Jake Paul, 2017. Yeah, the only problem with that quote is it doesn't seem like he ever actually learned that, but we'll get into that. So who the heck is Jake Paul? Jake Paul is 23 years old. In fact, we're practically the same age. I actually turned 22 recently, so it makes this video extra weird for me because I try to imagine myself being in these same situations that you're about to see come up, and I just get an error message, basically. Anyway, Jake's massively popular. He has 20 million subscribers on YouTube, which he calls the Jake Paulers. Gosh, that's a terrible name. Could you imagine if I just called y'all the DangeloWallacers? The sad part is you would probably let me. What's up, D'Angeloners? Welcome back to my channel. The joke is that you're all single. Jake's backstory is pretty typical stuff. He started off as just like a literal kid following in his older brother's footsteps. In fact, just like his brother, he rose to prominence on the video sharing app Vine before he ever had a YouTube following. Maybe I'm just completely out of the loop, but what exactly did people see in like Jake Paul's Vines? Like, what is here that would propel millions of children to say, yes, this is a person I'm going to follow very closely?
SpongeBob? SpongeBob! I know you're in there. You need to come out right now, or else I'm gonna come inside of there and I'm gonna find you, okay?
Top 10 questions science can't answer. Anyway, he got so popular from Vine that he moved from Ohio to Los Angeles before he even finished high school. He had such an impact on young audiences that he got the attention of Disney. Now, this was a much bigger break than his brother. See, I mentioned in my other video in this series that Logan Paul got a few cameos in films here. He got a few small roles on shows there. Jake Paul got a lead role as like a main character in the series Bizaardvark, which is a brand new show from Disney.
Here we go. You'll do anything you want, just don't try this at home.
At the time, Jake Paul was considered like the safer option out of the two Paul brothers, but unfortunately Disney had to learn the hard way that there is no good option basically when it comes to those two. Bizaardvark ended in 2019. But Jake Paul's time with them ended in 2017. To be fair, Disney claims that they quote-unquote mutually agreed that Jake Paul would leave his role, which is the most polite way of saying you're fired that I've ever heard. Like, could you imagine if Susan Wojcicki, CEO of YouTube, hit me up in an email and was like, hey, D'Angelo, can your people and my people like come to a mutual understanding where basically you don't upload YouTube videos ever again or have access to your account? Honestly, if she had asked me that like when I was in the middle of watching Jake Paul's video so I could make this video, I might have taken her up on that offer because my brain was just fried. But yeah, no, Jake Paul was definitely fired, okay, let's be honest. Even though he seemed to fit Disney's squeaky clean image at the time, with his harmless vines and his goofy persona, it turned out that Jake Paul was just kind of like a terrible person in general.
Neighbors say flames eventually grew higher than the
It used to be a really nice, quiet street, and now we're just this like war zone.
But as neighbors living with this every day, we're fed up.
I just wouldn't do that. A lot of the neighbors are complaining. They're very upset.
No, why?
They will decide whether to file a class action public nuisance lawsuit against Jake Paul.
Instead of taking this as a reality check and going like, oh, wow, I might actually be the worst, Jake just took it as like a badge of honor and bragged about this occurrence. Needless to say, he wound up announcing his departure from Bizaardvark 4 days later, so come on. I mean, the timing of it all makes Disney's claims that they mutually agreed to part ways a little suspect, but the real truth came out when Jake Paul himself admitted that Disney had already been monitoring his social media and realizing that he was not a fit for their brand, and getting contacted by his local police was the last straw. That wasn't the only big opportunity that Jake Paul had lost though. Outside of his control, Vine had recently pulled the plug. I talked about that a lot in the Logan Paul video, but long story short, he now had millions of followers and nowhere to go but YouTube full-time, and the rest is history. Unless you don't follow him at all, which you probably don't. So that's why I'm making this video, so I can tell you the rest. You know, in retrospect, Jake Paul was literally handed a job at Disney for existing, and he somehow couldn't be okay enough to keep it. Couldn't be me. But as you're gonna see, that stubbornness really plays a part throughout this entire story. So Jake Paul honestly existed in like his own YouTube bubble. Granted, it was a very large bubble, but it was filled 100% with small children who idolized him. There's no adults in that fan base, I assure you. Granted, people on YouTube knew who Jake Paul was, okay? He was that kid from Vine that nobody liked because he was way too messy. But in 2018, he was about to get a huge launch into the public consciousness. Logan Paul wound up getting massive coverage because of the Forest incident, but Jake Paul actually wound up getting massive coverage because of something a lot different, something a lot more positive at first.
This is gonna be a nightmare.
The mind of Jake Paul. In what seemed to be one of the most unlikely partnerships of all, the YouTuber Shane Dawson announced that the subject of his upcoming documentary series was going to be none other than Jake Paul. People were so confused at this because, remember, this was 2018, so Shane's image at the time was squeaky clean. I know that sounds like really weird, but you have to take my word for this. Everybody loved him. And ever since Jake Paul had gotten fired from Disney, he had just gotten more and more extreme with the antics. So people wanted to know why squeaky clean YouTube golden boy Shane Dawson would willingly give a platform to extremely reckless Jake Paul. It was to the point where Jake had recently taken to posting inappropriate content on his channel on purpose, despite knowing full well that his audience was just kids. And Dawson caught flack for this decision before the documentary even came out. Why Jake Paul, out of all people? I love Shane to death, but I am honestly not hyped for this at all. If I see you trying to save him like you did with Tana, we're gonna have issues. See, the reason this person said this was because Shane Dawson's documentary series on YouTube weren't just documenting things. They were more so, how to put this? They presented alternative explanations of very bad behavior for the people that they were based off of. AKA, he made a bunch of excuses for them and they're literally just PR pieces. So like his Tana Mojo documentary, where she threw this disastrous convention called TanaCon, he basically made the excuse for her in his documentary that actually it was somebody else's fault. By the way, remember the name Tana Mojo because she comes up in this video like way more than I wanted her to. I sat down to write a video about Jake Paul and I can only deal with like one annoying person at a time, and that's usually me. So dealing with Jake Paul was already 2 annoying people, but then Tana Mojo kept coming up in the video script no matter how hard I tried to cut her out. So the two are like linked by fate. It's terrifying. Anyway, he also had another documentary about Jeffree Star, and I'm sure a lot of people who watch my channel are quite familiar with Jeffree Star and what exactly transpired in that documentary. But Long story short, he also made Jeffree Star seem a lot better than he was. At the time though, that's not how people saw Shane's documentaries. They legitimately believed these people had changed, or that they were, you know, blameless basically. So long story short, if anybody could save Jake Paul's reputation at this point, it could only be Shane Dawson. So the documentary series goes live on September 25th, 2018. The series is 8 parts and 7 hours long for some reason. And Jake Paul features in episodes 5 through 8. Now, there's a lot that could be said about that series, and it would probably wind up taking just this entire video. So for brevity's sake, I'll just sum up the main arguments presented. Basically, according to this documentary, it's everyone in Jake's life's fault, not his. His brother Logan is like extremely overbearing and always doing better than him. So Jake Paul is always being so brash because he feels the need to keep up with Logan. The documentary actually frames Logan Paul as a sociopath. It's like an interesting angle to take, and I see where they were coming from, but maybe not. Maybe let's not do that. The fact that Jake never knows when to stop and he's always taking things too far is because of his dad, apparently, you know? His dad just would never stop pushing the two brothers, so that's why Jake Paul never stops pushing it. I don't know why people were buying these arguments, but it worked, so let me just keep going down the list. The responsibility that Jake Paul should feel to be a better person is actually apparently on his girlfriend, who needed to teach him how to love again, or whatever they say in those like bad romance movies where they use that excuse to justify having a good person stay with a bad love interest. Basically, none of the responsibility was placed on Jake, like at all. Everything had a reason. He admitted to what he did, but there was always some alternative explanation as to why. And basically, it worked. The whole series was met with widespread acclaim and just wild levels of success. I'm talking about 174 million views across that series, and the finale was the highest viewed episode, peaking at 28 million views. It was #1 on trending, the whole nine. Because of the success, Jake Paul wound up getting massive mainstream media coverage in outlets such as BBC, Newsweek, and The Telegraph. And just most interestingly to me, it was well received. The finale episode has a 98% like ratio with over 1 million likes. This went a long way towards making sure that Jake Paul's reputation was repaired. So many people valued the series for providing what they considered to be a more realistic view of Jake Paul's personality, I guess. But I honestly consider it to be the opposite, especially in retrospect. All that documentary did was provide an extremely baseless hope that maybe Jake Paul wasn't as bad as everyone thought he was, because I guess that's a bit easier to believe than that he's just really like that. I think there's a series of videos that shows his true personality way more than that Shane Dawson series did. And that would be the Tana Mongeau vlog. So if you're unfamiliar with Tana Mongeau, the best way I can describe her is literally a female version of the Paul brothers. Like, she's blonde, she's extremely smart, but she pretends to be extremely dumb. She's only ever popular when she gets into controversy, so she does it on purpose. She has a history of very intentional and gross behaviors that she's never had to take responsibility for because nothing ever happens.
We don't care. Sorry.
And yes, she even had a documentary made by Shane Dawson to clear her name after a particularly bad controversy with Danica. She's so much like the Paul brothers, in fact, that she actually literally filmed a dead body and uploaded it to YouTube. I don't know how she got away with that, but it happened.
This would only happen to us. Only we would like want to have a nice beach day and then have to like save a dead guy.
But hey, this video isn't about Tana Mongeau, it's about her ex-fake husband, Jake Paul. See, Tana Mongeau purposely uploaded a photo in which it was very obvious to Jake's fans that she was in his bed, apparently. And that was all it took for the internet to get talking about a possible partnership between the two worst single people on the platform. And they capitalized off of this hard. At the end of April, they both uploaded videos at the same time. Meet the girl I've been hiding from you. So Jake Paul's video features him telling this story about how he met Tana Mongeau.
She was just like telling me about like how like she just broke up with her boyfriend, and I was like, oh no.
His acting in this video is terrible, and I can't even tell if it's supposed to be real. Like, I would legitimately assume it was satire, if not for the fact that this is exactly how his acting was on his Disney Channel show.
Sorry, Kirk, but thanks to Paige, I'm not doing Danger Stairs anymore. Only safe ones.
Tana Mongeau's video, on the other hand, was called Mukbang, In My Bed With My Rebound, Jake Paul. Tana's video features her claiming that they just linked up on purpose to dunk on the internet for starting the false relationship rumors.
And people's interpretations and ideas of people from what they are on the internet isn't always like all of what they are. Sometimes it's only like sides of them and stuff.
I personally think this is a ridiculous explanation because let's be very clear. They started the relationship rumors themselves. You know, if I go to your favorite YouTuber's house and I take a picture of myself in their bed, half undressed, what message am I sending exactly? But I guess this is Tana Mongeau world, so we're supposed to pretend like she never knows what she's doing and everything just happens to her. But those two videos that they uploaded simultaneously were all it took for their relationship to become basically like a new character that they could both use for views on their respective channels. Their relationship was so for profit that they sold Jana merch, like Jake plus Tana, Jana. Yeah, they turned that into merch. A lot of people consider this to be them going public with their relationship, but I honestly, I think it was just a collaboration. Like YouTubers do this all the time, where it's like, okay, we'll get together and then we'll record 2 videos. One will go on your channel, one will go on my channel. And then we both have cool content and some new followers. But for some reason, they decided to do the same thing, but with a relationship. So that happened. They both got a spike in views because of this, with Jake getting nearly 10 million and Tana Mongeau getting over 7 million. And after those two, they went hard with the Jana videos, just back to back to back. And I personally feel like in these videos is where we see Jake Paul's real personality. In these videos, his personality is a 180 from how he just appeared in Shane Dawson's series. He's extremely self-aware of how controversial he is, and he seems to take pride in it in some weird way.
We're in a mess right now. We're in a little scandal, I guess you would say.
Yeah, I kind of like it.
Me too.
It's kind of fun. It's kind of like edgy, you know, it's just different. And the internet's so boring.
But just starting a simple relationship for YouTube clout wasn't enough because I'm sure you saw this coming. Then they announced their marriage. Jake Paul apparently proposed to her at her 21st birthday or something like that.
There we were. Shane Dawson's sociopath kids getting engaged at a nightclub in Las Vegas, Nevada.
You know, the fact that Jake describes them as Shane Dawson's sociopath children really just shows me like how much of a play the whole Shane Dawson series was, and he's just fully aware of that. They got married the next month during like this disastrous live stream event. It seems like Tana Mongeau and large-scale public planning they don't mix. And honestly, neither did Jake Paul and Tana Mongeau, because their marriage was never real in the first place. Okay, to be clear, there were no court papers. And I'm not saying that you have to get court papers, you know, to live together and have a relationship. I'm just saying they got married for YouTube clout. Tana Mongeau got a bunch of clout for her MTV original show, Tana Turns 21. And in this show, we see Jake Paul kind of like he really is, just like a jerk, basically.
There's no one here who's
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I care about more than this.
I don't believe you.
I keep saying he seemed different than he did in Shane Dawson's series, but I think the truth of the matter is he seemed exactly like he did before Shane Dawson's series made everyone think that he was different. You get what I'm saying? Eventually their marriage stopped trending, so they ended it. They announced that they were ending their partnership merely 6 months after tying the knot. Except there was no string apparently. Strangely enough, they still pretend to be together every now and then for views, and it's weird. Like Tana Mongeau just put out this video. Even though it was like never real in the first place, their marriage got them a ton of press coverage, and I personally think that's the real Jake Paul. Not somebody who, you know, has no idea why he's like this and he can't change no matter how hard he tries. More so somebody who very deliberately uses any and everybody around him for content. No matter what happens in his life, he has to be able to turn it into content. And ultimately, that wound up being his downfall. Now, that being said, if you are a famous YouTuber and you are willing to marry me for YouTube clout, please leave your applications below. I will be reviewing them after this video goes up. So that's a picture of Jake Paul and how he's given chance after chance to seem like a good person, but just revels in letting everybody know that he's not really like that. Now I want to look at Jake Paul's content. That's a lie, I don't, but I wrote it into this video because I find it very interesting to discuss Jake Paul's content. You can't talk about Jake Paul without talking about Team 10. Basically, Team 10 was a bunch of internet famous people living together in a house, because how could that go wrong? The initial lineup was quite simple. Jake Paul, Alyssa Violet, Niels Visser, Alex Lange, the Dobre twins, and AJ Mitchell. The issue with Team 10 was that everybody in that group acted exactly like Jake Paul. These people put out a ton of content when Team 10 was first introduced, but none of it seemed like watching a bunch of friends having fun together. Like the Vlog Squad, for example. That is definitely a creator collective where they all use each other for clout. But like they seem like friends, like it's nice, it's wholesome. Team 10 on the other hand seems like a nightmare where there's just a bunch of Jake Pauls of various shapes, sizes, and ages, and it was terrifying. There was no chemistry, they were just loud. That was the chemistry, loudness. The biggest drawback to them all being basically Jake Paul though was that now his destructive capability was multiplied by 10, or however many people were in the group. Was it 10 people? They shared Jake's general recklessness and never-ending chase to do everything bigger than he did last time. In fact, remember earlier when I mentioned he got criticized for being super loud by the neighbors and they called the police? That was Team 10, okay? That was the house that they were in. It was the Team 10 mansion. They were so rowdy in that mansion that Jake Paul wound up getting slapped by legal for $2.5 million because it was revealed that he didn't even own that house. He was just renting it apparently. So between the mix of extreme irresponsibility, complete disregard for their neighbors, and seemingly limitless money, Team 10 quickly secured their spot as the worst group of friends on the internet. Their theme song, It's Everyday Bro, is one of the most disliked videos on all of YouTube.
It's everyday, bro, with the Disney Channel flow.
Jake's brother Logan Paul put out an apology video for the Forest incident, and that has over 2 million dislikes. It's Everyday Bro has twice that. I cannot imagine reaching 1 million comments on a YouTube video. Like 1 million people took time out of their day to let Jake Paul know, hey, we never want to see this ever again. But the reason I bring Team 10 up is because it doesn't just represent a friend group. Well, because they're not friends. It really represents a business model. Team 10 is an agency that Jake launched with $1 million worth of backing from various investors that he raised beforehand. The business model is simple. They all provide each other a collective boost in internet fame by collaborating often, which is easy because they're all in the same location. And then they use that internet fame to secure bigger and bigger brand deals every single time, of which, presumably, Jake Paul gets a commission. Basically, everybody just gets richer and more popular in like a loop. Current influencer houses are modeled off of it, like the Hype House or the Sway House, and they're massively successful despite their flaws. So he had seemingly everything, a group of super young people that kids liked, and a business model to keep 10 running forever. The only issue was, as mentioned several times, Jake Paul is not a great person. So let's just say Team 10 turned out to be an extremely hostile work environment. Why I left Team 10 became basically an entire genre on YouTube. I'm not going to get into the specifics of each story, but it really did all seem to come down to the fact that Jake Paul does not know how to treat people well. I don't have much sympathy for anybody who willingly works with Jake Paul knowing who he is, but I do feel sorry that people were treated this way when the only reason they signed up was just for some influencer money. It got so bad that Jake Paul began burning through Team 10 members. There's a point where out of the members on Team 10, none of them were the original people except for Jake Paul. Literally everybody left this man. Everyone left one by one, and from what I can tell, Team 10 is now defunct. Their website currently lists no members under the lineup. Their Twitter has been scrubbed and simply reads, a new team is coming soon, except it said that for like a while and no team has come. And the Instagram bio just seems like a bitter end to the whole chapter. Who will leave next? Stay tuned. That's actually funny. Like if I was running the Team 10 account, that's unironically exactly what I would change the bio to. And just like that, it's been over a year since the Team 10 YouTube channel uploaded. What I personally find even sadder than that though is none of the original members of Team 10 really have anything to do with Jake nowadays. AJ Mitchell became an actually famous singer with like 7 million monthly Spotify listeners and a collaboration with Ava Max. Alex Lange went on to become a TV actor. The Dobre brothers went on to be a lot. Niels Visser left the social media influencer life completely and now just leads a very low profile on Instagram. And Alyssa Violet, I don't know what she does, but good for her. What I find pathetic though is that somehow Jake Paul claims that it wasn't him, but the original members of Team 10 that used him.
I'm sick and tired of ass kids who like somehow are able to fool me and the nice person that I am into thinking that they're good people and me giving them everything and then them stabbing me in the back.
I almost feel like Jake Paul knew from the beginning that Team 10 was going to slip right through his fingers because he tried to start this thing called Team 1000. Yes, literally. And maybe if they went through the entire course, they could join Team 10.
I have one of the best jobs on the earth. I get to do what I want, where I want, with who I want, and make a lot of money doing it. And so I wanted you guys to be able to do it too.
So instead of collecting a commission from all of his quote-unquote friends for the sponsorship deals that they're getting, why not just collect direct payments directly from your audience, because they're paying you in the hopes that maybe someday they could be your friend. Unfortunately though, Team 1000 turned out to be an actual scam, but I'll get into that later. It's bizarre to me that Jake Paul's primary method of expanding his revenue is to just create more Jake Pauls. But if anything, I guess I should just be grateful that it didn't work. So this would be the part where I look at Jake Paul's videos and how they evolved from before Shane Dawson's series. In the Logan Paul video, that's what I did in this part anyway. I looked at how his content changed from before. But when I went to look at Jake's profile, it turns out that he doesn't even consistently post vlogs anymore. He's actually turned his attention to music. His entire YouTube channel is currently being used to promote his recently released singles. The banner is a giant ad to listen to 23 on Spotify, which I will not be doing. I'm sorry, the graphic design of this advertisement is so unforgivable. The text is like super sharp, but Jake is super blurry. They couldn't even clearly remove the background of the Spotify logo. There's a rainbow border at the top, but it just ends right here for no reason. You know what? Let me stop. Otherwise, the entire video is just going to turn into a graphic design review. Funny part is, I would actually still watch that, like a graphic design review. Why don't people do that? I should do that. Anyway, Jake Paul has only uploaded 8 videos in the past 3 months. I don't know why I said that so forcefully when I've uploaded fewer videos than that. But my point is, Jake Paul went from uploading every single day around 2017 to just barely anything. Anyway, 3 of these 8 uploads of his are music videos, and 1 is just behind the scenes of the music video, and the other 4 are vlogs. But what I discovered when I tried to watch his vlogs so I could break them down is that these vlogs also contain ads for the music videos.
Subscribe, alright?
I don't need new friends, I don't like fake friends, only here to make it.
I'm not sure if that's gonna get me copyright claims, but some music is worth getting claimed over. The issue is none of it was created by Jake Paul.
Say what's up everyone, my new song Dummy comes out in 3 days.
Okay, ready?
Alright, ready? 3, 2, 1. What's up everyone, my new song Dummy comes out in 3 days.
Hey look, he's using Tana Mojo for clout. Literally.
People will start to realize this kid is actually like taking this music seriously.
Are you sure about that one?
Don't take a score, we in first place. We make them on our worst day. Body them on the first 8. They put it on the line to get rid of me, leaving them shook like an earthquake.
It's legitimately embarrassing because you can tell that he actually thinks it's good. Like, that makes it worse than if he knew it was bad, honestly. But hey, you know what? I have to give him the benefit of the doubt. He seems to be promoting this music very hard, so let's see what it is. This is called Fresh Outta London, apparently. Okay, wow, I do have to give props to whoever directed the music video. Actually, you know what? No, I don't. I do not have to give them props. Jake Paul is a multi-millionaire. Good quality is basically like the bare minimum for him. Never mind. This video is literally just alternating between shots of skimpily dressed girls, a bunch of people dancing, Jake Paul awkwardly wobbling in front of the camera, and demonstrations of opulence. What I'm trying to say here is I've seen this music video before, and several hundred other music videos before it. The song itself is honestly just so boring. Like, it doesn't sound bad, it's devoid of substance. Every single line in this song is one that I've heard a version of in somebody else's song. So what I'm trying to say is I've heard this song before in hundreds of other songs before it. Alright, so this next music video is called 23, and this is barely a song. Like, the song itself is less than 2 minutes, and he repeats the chorus a bunch of times. Clearly, his songwriting ability is not that far because he could barely get enough generic rap lyrics out to fill up an entire runtime. I'm gonna be honest, flexing your wealth in a rap song when you got that wealth from marketing adult vlogs to toddlers is pathetic. But hey, rapping about cars and girls and how you're better than other rappers. How innovative.
I got the paparazzi at the front of my door. I can't leave shit, I need to disguise.
The line, I got the paparazzi at the front of my door. You mean your front door? I think the reason that this is grating on my nerves is because I enjoy rap music. Good rap music made by people who love rap music. And it's very obvious that I am listening to somebody making music because rap music makes money. All right, the last song I can bring myself to look at is Dummy. Actually, why is this song called Dummy in all caps when 6ix9ine has a song called Dummy in all caps? That's weird.
You stupid dummy, you stupid little dummy. I got money, now they love me.
Oh my gosh, it actually sounds like a rejected 6ix9ine song, which is a lot because a lot of 6ix9ine's songs sound like they should have been rejected already. Okay, even though this recent rap career revival has only lasted 3 months, he's clearly gone downhill somehow. Now, the featured rapper on this track is named TV Gucci, who I've never heard of in my life, but go off. He's honestly giving me TV Walmart. I'm just whipping through the city with JPZ in the Mozzie with a baddie in the backseat. I mean, I won't judge this TV Gucci person off of just one song, which is terrible, but I will judge this one song. It's terrible. Why is he so heavily auto-tuned when he's only rapping one note? Also, the lack of care put into this just in general is so bad. Like, this animated lyric video has a typo in it, and I have typos in like a lot of my videos, but this says spitchich instead of spinach, and that I don't understand how you could accidentally type spitchich. It almost hurts to say, like, when it comes out of your mouth. Anyway, my only guess, what with the banner promoting the music and all of this hardcore promotion for these singles, is that Jake Paul might be gearing up for an album release. But I legitimately don't understand who has been asking for Jake Paul to release an album. You need to feel ashamed. I never thought I would say stick to your day job to somebody who was never good at their day job, but Jake Paul needs to stick to vlogging, okay? The music is somehow worse. Jake Paul, for the first time ever, I am asking you to make vlogs on purpose. I mean, I'm making a lot of jokes about this. Honestly, his music isn't making my ears bleed or anything dramatic like that. It's just soulless, and I don't want to listen to it, so I'm never going to listen to it ever again. And I'm sorry that I made you listen to it, but I had to share this pain. I can't take this by myself. Like, he doesn't add anything to the world of rap, you feel me? He's just putting out rap in an already oversaturated market, and he's entering this market with inflated numbers because of the legion of actual children that will click into anything that he puts his face on. So I hope that works out for you. Anyway, I promise that's the last Jake Paul song I'm going to play in this video. There's actually like an upcoming section in this video about him being a career criminal, but somehow I consider that music to be more criminal than what he did later. But hey, so making bad music is not objectively wrong, even though it should be in Jake Paul's case. But never fear, because Jake Paul has plenty of objectively bad things that he's done.
To be honest, most people aren't ready to be on Team 10 and still have things to learn. And this is why I'm stoked to introduce you to something super special today. Team 1000.
Basically, you take the course and maybe someday you can be on Team 10. As you know, I already mentioned this and how it was a scam. In fact, it was so much a scam that the website is just gone. Team 1000 was basically called Edfluence. That was like its official name. And if you go to edfluence.com, there's nothing there anymore. It redirects you to this empty website. The only thing that I could really find that's still up is their Twitter, where they were using to promote the course. And all that has is one single solitary advertisement.
There were users that were posting 20 a day, and they were at the top of the leaderboards. Now that's not as good of a thing to do. However, you at least want to post one time a day.
Scams aside, that's legitimately bad advice. Like, posting as much as possible when you're just starting off on social media is not going to propel you to the top of the algorithm. It keeps people at the top of the algorithm once they've already gotten there. If you're posting an absurd amount of content when your numbers are low, all you're doing is just saturating the lower end of that algorithm, therefore making it harder for anybody to break out. Instead, you should focus on posting high quality content at a moderate frequency. I don't know why I'm giving you like a course. I should charge you. It won't be a scam, I promise. Anyway, it seems obvious to me that Jake Paul wasn't really in charge of marketing this course, because honestly, it's lame. Like, it's very uncool. The Twitter feed legitimately seems like it's being run by a bot. Say what you will about Jake Paul, but he has a lot of personality. Not really. But this website has none of it whatsoever. But the reason that the website is gone and the Twitter's dead and you can't get to the course anymore is because the whole basis of people realizing, oh yeah, this is a scam, was that it was set up in an extremely misleading way. See, the entire course was billed as being $7, or at least if you read the website, you might come to the conclusion that this is $7 and then you get access to the whole website. But after you paid that $7, it was revealed that you actually only paid for lesson 1. And so you would have to pay an additional $47 if you wanted to continue with the thing that you had just already paid your money for. Besides that, if we're being honest, the majority of the people interested in a course from Jake Paul would be kids. So if you just had your mom, you know, enter her credit card stuff for $7 and then you see a $47 button there, are you not going to click it? Drew Gooden actually made a much longer and more in-depth video about like how predatory of the thing Jake Paul was doing. So Go watch that. Drew Gooden's the best. Another time Jake Paul got caught promoting scummy things to his audience was with Mystery Brand. In my opinion, this one was almost worse than Edfluence because of just how blatant it was. This wasn't even limited to Jake Paul either. A bunch of YouTubers like Jake Paul, Rice Gum, Reaction Time, Guava Juice, they posted a sponsored ad for this company called Mystery Brand. The issue with Mystery Brand though is that it's just straight up a gambling website. And Jake Paul's audience, as he knows, is made up of children. So he was intentionally promoting a gambling site to kids in a video in which he made it seem like you could pay a few dollars and win some designer shoes. After Jake got called out for this, he actually doubled down. H3H3 Productions uploaded a scathing video calling out Rice Gum and Jake for promoting this, and Jake Paul claimed to be unbothered by the call out. Ethan of H3H3 tweeted, "You loved being called out for selling a gambling scam to underage kids?" To which Jake Paul replied, "Yes. Love it. Heart emoji." Remember, this was almost 2 years after he bragged about the neighbors calling the police on him. Like, it's legitimately the same energy. He hasn't changed at all. The last one I want to talk about is the financial freedom movement. Now, I actually made like an entire video about this. It's like 20 minutes long. You can feel free to watch that. But basically, this was not a scam, for once. Instead, this was a desperate cash grab to shift his audience towards paying a subscription-based model for a course in which you learn financial independence. It was nearly identical to Edfluence, but instead of paying a one-time fee and then another one-time fee that was hidden behind the first one-time fee, you just pay $20 a month for this one. So what exactly is the issue? The issue is that the advertising was extremely misleading. First of all, he tried to make it seem like it was backed by a bunch of companies, but it wasn't. He also marketed it as a replacement for a college education. Literally, he encouraged kids to do this course instead of going to college. And beyond all that, he capped it off with a letter to parents, which shows me that he literally knows that only kids would be interested in this. And in this letter, he just puts a bunch of fear-mongering rhetoric about how all the kids' jobs are going to be replaced unless they develop their skills by taking his course. Like, I can't make this up. It's all in my longer video about it. But long story short, this is also gone. There's no more Financial Freedom Movement website. Team 10 is gone. The Financial Freedom Movement is gone. Edfluence is gone. Like, if you just look at the trail of nonsense that Jake Paul leaves behind, it becomes really clear that he doesn't do these things because he's interested in them. He does them because they make money, and the moment they stop, he just moves on to the next thing. Like, he knows exactly who his audience is, but he doesn't care about them. He's all too happy to squeeze every bit of money out of their parents with misleading purchasing practices to get the kids hooked on gambling sites just so he could cash some sponsorship money, and to mislead them about what it takes to be just like him. Also, he can get another dollar out of them. It's pathetic, legitimately. Now, that conflict I mentioned earlier where the police were called on Jake at his house, that was just the beginning of an ever-growing list of run-ins with the law that Jake Paul has had because of his own actions. He just does things that are worse and worse, and recently it got to the point where he got hit with criminal charges. But first, let me just start with the most mild of it all, the pandemic parties. Unfortunately, this issue isn't just specific to Jake Paul. A lot of influencers have been throwing parties in the middle of a pandemic with no social distancing because they can, basically. Tana Mojo, of all people, TikTok star Lorray, YouTuber James Charles, these are all people who have had to post apologies for attending these parties and promoting them to their audience via social media, which is obviously incredibly irresponsible to do during this time. But worse than those three are the people who are doing this and then refusing to apologize. YouTube collective The Nelk Boys, or TikTok star Bryce Hall, or yes, also Jake Paul. They have all been caught doing this, but offered no statements or even willingness to stop being so unsafe during a global pandemic. And so now they're getting in trouble with more than just Twitter. Bryce Hall got the power shut off at his mansion because of a party he threw. And Jake Paul is the latest to face backlash from officials because of a gathering. Remember the music video for Fresh Out of London, and I mentioned it was nothing but boring scenes, some of which were people partying? Yeah, that was filmed during the pandemic. It was so bad that the mayor of Calabasas came out and said that they will be enforcing a zero tolerance policy for gatherings like that. As ridiculous as that is, that's just on the lower end of the spectrum of the times Jake Paul wound up getting the authorities involved. Jake Paul was spotted at a riot that was going on in Scottsdale, Arizona. I mentioned this briefly in the Logan Paul video, but I'm going to go into it in more detail here. He went there with his camera crew to try to get vlog footage from this riot. And for some reason, obviously the cameraman saw nothing wrong with it because he's the one who posted the videos of them to his Instagram. However, this got worse than Jake just being there because more footage came out that showed that people were actually looting. They were breaking into stores and stealing things during this riot. And there's a video clip of Jake Paul accepting stolen vodka. Now, granted, did Jake Paul or anybody on his team break through the glass and steal anything? No, but let's just be honest. If you're standing around in the middle of a riot with a vlog camera and you see that people are bursting into stores and then someone hands you a fully unopened bottle of vodka with no context, like where do you think the vodka came from? Obviously you just chose to accept stolen goods, right? People were notably outraged since this is, you know, criminal behavior. So Jake Paul put out a response. It was a Twitter notes apology. Yes, the man put out a Twitter notes apology after getting caught at a riot. It was really bad, by the way. He just basically clarified that he and his team weren't taking part in the looting and that they were only there because they were trying to bring awareness to the things that were happening in the streets, which is a really funny way of saying get video footage of it so you can get more views on YouTube. People on Twitter were not buying it. I mentioned this in my other video, but even his own brother, Logan Paul, had to call him out for being there with the camera crew. Just a few days after that incident, Jake Paul and his team were charged with criminal trespass and unlawful activities. See, it turns out that Jake Paul didn't just happen to be in the right place at the right time to get some killer vlog footage. It turns out that police had already told everybody to leave that area, and Jake Paul and his crew entered anyway and chose to stay so that they could continue recording footage for their vlog. Now, as for the charges, they were actually dropped by the Scottsdale Police Department a few months later. So nothing came of those. As far as the criminal stuff goes, I want to talk about the most recent thing he's done, which was getting raided by the FBI. Now, this part legitimately sounds like it's straight out of a movie. A literal small army was deployed by the FBI to raid Jake Paul's mansion in Calabasas. There is a ton of speculation about what it could possibly be over, especially since the FBI was photographed confiscating weapons from Jake's house. Neither Jake nor the FBI gave a comment, so people used their imaginations and went into overdrive. This was further complicated when it was revealed that Jake's longtime friend Arman Izzati was also raided by the FBI, which was doubly weird because his mansion was actually in Las Vegas. So weeks went by of people wondering what in the world was wrong with Jake Paul's squad. But then the truth came out when Jake posted in a now deleted vlog that it was actually related to the looting incident. This would make sense since Arman Izzati was also at the site when that was happening. So it turns out the charges weren't dropped by the Scottsdale Police Department because Jake Paul was getting away with it. They were dropped because the FBI got involved, so they decided to take it from there. Now, the FBI search warrant affidavits for this Jake Paul case are currently sealed, so we're not going to learn the exact reason why they were there or what came of it, but I have a feeling someday we'll find out. Breaking the law for YouTube content is just a new low, even for Jake Paul. And a low for Jake Paul was already like below the ground. Like if I compare Jake Paul to his brother Logan, who many people already consider to be one of the worst people on the platform, it becomes so clear how Jake is more than just a bad YouTuber. He's just legitimately a bad person. I mean, first of all, Logan Paul's content is better, and I never thought I would say that. Everything Jake does seems lazy in comparison to Logan Paul's stuff. I mean, Jake outputs so much less content than Logan does. And again, that's not necessarily the mark of a lazy person. I mean, I took like, what, 2 months before I uploaded these videos because they took me so long. But if you're barely uploading any videos and the occasional times you do upload, they're like low quality ads, then no, that's lazy. Logan Paul uploads multiple episodes of his podcast a week and still manages to upload vlogs a couple times a month as well. Whereas Jake Paul literally only materializes on his channel when he has music to promote. On top of that, Jake's vlogs have no polish compared to Logan Paul's. Like I mentioned, there's a whole section in my Logan Paul video where I give like a breakdown of how I feel about his vlog content. And one of the things I criticized Logan for was that his stuff was weirdly overproduced for vlogs to the point where it felt like a movie. But at the same time, that takes effort. Jake Paul's content, on the other hand, has no effort whatsoever. Nothing much happens, there's only ever a few scenes per video, and there's never a concrete storyline. So it's like, I never understand why he decided to create this vlog. If Logan Paul's vlogs feel like hanging out with your cool older brother, then Jake Paul's vlogs feel like being forced to watch your annoying little brother. Besides this, Logan's online persona is just like extremely detached and bored.
Guys, also don't forget that Fresh Out of London music video is out now. Save the song on your Spotify, run the numbers up, everyone send the song to your friends.
He feels like he's just going through the motions, basically. Now, to be clear, I kind of relate to not being very animated. I feel like I'm somewhat known for sounding very similar, and I definitely wouldn't prefer if Jake was just acting hyper for no reason like so many vloggers tend to do. But there's gotta be some energy if it's a vlog, okay? In my videos, I sound like I'm just talking about things that happen to other people, because I am. So why does Jake Paul also sound like that in his own vlogs when he's talking about his own life? It's bizarre. Logan Paul, on the other hand, is full of energy in his content, not just in the vlogs, but in his podcast as well. To be clear, I think Logan Paul is full of like too much energy. It's definitely not content I would be watching, but all the same, I would vastly prefer that to somebody who seems like they don't care about the video that they're making. I guess my best way of summing this up is Jake Paul puts out less than half the content with less than half the energy. I also just get the vibe that Jake Paul is kind of copying Logan Paul, but like worse. Like to a certain extent, I do understand that they're brothers, and brothers often do similar things just by nature of being so close to each other. But the issue is when Jake Paul does those same things that Logan does, they're like lifeless and lower quality. So it really just comes across as blatant copying. Logan Paul's boxing career was exciting, and Jake Paul's boxing career was just like there. Logan's vlog is exciting, and Jake Paul's vlog is just there, basically. Logan's podcast is legitimately interesting to me, personally. I find it quite insightful at times. And Jake Paul doesn't have a podcast yet, but I'm guessing if he gets any whiff of how much money Logan's probably making off of it, the Jake Paul podcast is incoming, and it will be terrible. But content aside, you know, again, making bad content doesn't make you a bad person. The issue is, I just get the vibe that Jake is legitimately a bad person, like a worse person than his brother. Now, this is in no way a defense of Logan Paul. Let's just clear the air. Logan Paul recorded a victim of suicide and posted that to his YouTube channel for views. And then when he got called on this by the entire world, he put out a slew of pathetic apologies and performative philanthropy to try to trick people into thinking that he somehow changed overnight. You know, I go into like a lot more detail about this in my other video, as you know, or if you haven't seen it yet, check that out. But in that video, I also talk about how Logan Paul's current actions do not reflect what he did in that forest. Logan Paul built a track record after that, and that track record is not full of incidents similar to the forest thing. It's full of incidents where you can see that Logan Paul has tried to grow and improve from that situation. I mean, granted, that track record still has some really stupid stuff on there because, you know, the Paul brothers are gonna Paul brother. But my point remains, Jake Paul, on the other hand, his track record just shows him getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, this is Jake Paul's track record. Let's get things very straight. He was so reckless that he got sued by his property owner, and his neighbors called the police on him. He promoted scams and gambling sites to his child audience multiple times. He violates social distancing just to throw parties so he can get content for his music videos. He uses any and everyone around him, forming and breaking off entire relationships just for clout. He violated the law just to get video content for his vlog. And he's in the middle of an ongoing FBI investigation over literally who knows what. And yet somehow, never at any point has he taken responsibility for anything I just mentioned. I think the thing about Jake Paul is like he gives off the impression of being somewhat harmless. I suspect that's why Disney went with him over Logan Paul. I suspect that's why Shane Dawson went with him over Logan Paul. But the truth is, by now, it's become all too apparent to me through the hours and hours and hours of content that I've had to consume just to create this video, that Jake Paul is the worst Paul brother. Hands down. It's to the point where Jake Paul's own comment section doesn't even like him. I mean, I mentioned in my other video at length how Logan Paul's comment section never likes Jake whenever he shows up in Logan's videos. They claim that his channel is bad, that he hasn't grown as a person like his brother, or that he's only tolerable in short doses on Logan's vlogs. But what surprised me even more than that was the fact that Jake Paul's own comment section doesn't even like him either. This beef is faker than his marriage. Honestly, the conflicts or the beef that goes on in Jake Paul's vlogs are so fake that I didn't even write them into the script. I took one look at it and I was like, oh, this isn't a thing that happened. I'm only here because he just got raided and damn, he's so cringe. I do think a large portion of Jake's current viewers find him through the terrible things he winds up in the news for, and then they don't even like what they find when they check out his channel. I actually had the idea to make this two-part series on the Paul brothers after I found out that Jake Paul had been raided by the FBI. I was like, oh, wow, there must be a lot going on here. Suffice it to say, there was a lot. Why does Jake always sound like he's reading a book he doesn't want to read? I found that comment funny, but I think it actually sums up my entire view on Jake Paul's current content as a whole. The man sounds like he doesn't want to do it. Jake Paul is a character in his vlogs that doesn't want to be there. Like, when I look at Jake's comment section, I see a person who's being viewed by people who don't actually like him. He's not getting views because people enjoy his content. He's getting views because he's making people mad. So if at any point he stops making people mad, he will not be relevant. Therefore, he continues to purposely make people mad again and again and again. And he literally pats himself on the back and measures his success by how upset he can make people. When I look at Jake Paul's content, his brand, when I look at him as a person, it just leaves me with questions. Did Jake Paul ever really want to do YouTube in the first place, or is he just doing all of this because his older brother did it and he saw it could make money? How far is Jake Paul willing to go for YouTube content if he's clearly okay with violating the law to do so? Does any of this mean anything to Jake Paul at all is my biggest question. And I feel like the unfortunate part is I know the answer is no. I've never personally seen him grow from a situation once. I can't even wrap my head around why he's still on YouTube, but it's obviously at this point just because he still makes money. Jake Paul's entire story is like something out of a bad play. Constantly hiding in his brother's shadow and formerly considered to be the good one. Powerful influencer pushes the boundaries of what he can get away with, escalating his antics to the point where federal law enforcement has to get involved. But with this insane life path that Jake Paul has chosen, I just kind of want to look at where did that leave him in terms of his viewership and where's that going to take him in the future. So it's worth noting that his YouTube growth hasn't kept up with his brothers at all. This entire year so far, Jake Paul has experienced a channel expansion of 500,000 subscribers. And granted, that is a lot of subscribers. He went from 19.7 million to 20.2. However, by comparison, if you look at Logan Paul's channel, you can see that Logan Paul's audience has grown by 2 million subscribers. We're talking about 4 times more than Jake Paul has this year. And that's even with Jake getting an influx of new viewers from both Shane Dawson and Tana Mojo. The new people finding Jake aren't doing so because of a podcast or a vlog. They do it because every time they go to turn on the news, there he is, smiling about the latest wrong thing that he's done. His views right now are also the worst they've ever been. To be fair, his music videos both have over 17 million views, which is extremely high for this kind of thing. So it kind of makes it seem like he's getting a ton of views if you go to his social blade. But if you look at the actual vlogs he's uploading, they're tanking compared to his past uploads. Logan Paul consistently pulls around 6 million views per vlog, and Jake Paul is getting anywhere from 2 to 4. The lower end of 2 to 4, to the point where his latest upload only passed 1.4 million views, and it's been over a week. That is a lot of his subscribers not clicking into his recent content, and if I had to guess, it's because of how advertising his vlogs are getting. If you see that Jake Paul uploaded and you got excited for a second, but then you remember that's probably just an advertisement for his upcoming music and you don't have an interest in his music, then you don't really have an impetus to click into the video. And I think that's how his views are just going lower and lower and lower. Overall, he's doing worse than ever before, and I do not see it turning around unless he starts putting some real effort into his content. And I just have a feeling that's probably not going to happen. My projections for Jake Paul in the future are quite simple. If he doesn't fix his stuff, he's gonna start losing subscribers instead of gaining them. And as for the future of Jake Paul himself, I'm worried, because if we started off with something as minor as getting the police called on you because you and your friends were too loud, and we're escalating it up to the point where it's an FBI raid and a closed investigation, then what is next? What is Jake Paul going to do next in the name of YouTube content? I honestly don't want to have any part of it. That's all I know. Anyway, that was my big video about Jake Paul. Again, remember, this is just one of a 2-part series, so if you're interested, go watch the other video. It's about Logan Paul, and ooh, trust me, Logan Paul is just as interesting. And, you know, I guess if you're like a Jake Paul stan and you somehow made it this far into a video, I do want to say, I understand that you might like Jake Paul and I don't, but at the end of the day, it's my channel, not yours, so honestly, who cares?